Alright guys, as you can see behind me, I got my 2011 Ford F-350. It's the single rear, not the dually. I'm going to be installing a 6-inch rough country lift kit on this truck. As you can see, I already got it jacked up in the air. This is going to be a step-by-step video. I want you guys to really know and learn how to do this kind of stuff. Save yourself some money, do it on your own. Now, first things first, you need to have the right tools. So go out, spend some money, get yourself an air impact gun, a compressor, you know, some jack stands, a good jack, or borrow it, or ask your neighbor, do something. But the right tool is gonna make this job a lot easier. So I got these 12-ton jack stands here because you need to make sure that you put your jack stands on the frame. You want the suspension to go full down all the way, because we're gonna be taking out the springs, dropping the axle, changing the shocks, adding brackets, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get started. First step, you're gonna remove your wheels. Obviously, get the truck jacked up, make sure it's on the frame, make sure it's steady, make sure it's safe, and then go ahead and unbolt your wheels and get them gone. Alright guys, so after you got your truck in air, we're gonna go ahead and start in the driver's side. So first thing you want to do is remove your track bar right here. This usually gets torqued down very around 200 to 250 foot-pounds. So your typical impact gun might not remove it, and it's also kind of a tight spot. In this case, I had to get my breaker bar in here to break this thing loose. It's also had some rust and corrosion on it that was holding it on. So spray some WD-40, spray some PB Blaster. But first step, you're just gonna remove this bolt out of here, get the track bar free. And then we're gonna, back here on your ABS sensor, you're just gonna unlatch this clip right here and remove it from this radius arm to give this cable some more slack. Then after that, you're gonna want to remove the hose here for your auto lock hubs if your vehicle has that equipped. It's a 10 millimeter right here, so we're just gonna remove this off of here right now. You just want to remove that bracket, give that some slack there too. The next thing you're going to remove is this brake line bracket right here that's held on to the frame. This one was a 13 millimeter. I already loosened it up here, so you're just going to remove that. And now we got some actual some clearance here so we can drop down the axle. Alright, now in order to get the axle down, we need to unbolt these shock absorbers. If not, it's just gonna rest on it. So right now we have the suspension full droop. I'm gonna go ahead and I got my jack underneath the axle. I'm just gonna lift it up a little bit just to take the weight off of the shock, and we're gonna unbolt this up here and keep on going. Alright guys, so we got the upper shock mount off here, and then you have to remove the lower bolt. It sits right in here. It's kind of dark, I'm not sure, right there. Okay, once you get those two out, the shock comes right out, and then we're going to move on to the passenger side. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. You're going to remove this upper line bracket right here. You're going to remove the bracket underneath the spring to give this the slack. You're going to unclip the ABS sensor right there. Remove the upper shock mount and lower shock mount. Same thing we just did on the other side. Same here. Just copy it. And now next up, before we lower this axle, we're actually going to unbolt the sway bar at the frame. There's 2 15 millimeter bolts on each side. So we're just going to go ahead and take this off and drop the sway bar, and then we can lower this axle. Let's move on to the other side. We got the other 2 15 millimeter bolts here. Sway bars off. Alright, now we're going to lower down the axle onto these jack stands to get the coil springs out. Alright, now that we got the axle dropped down, we can go ahead and remove the coil springs. We're just going to pull it straight out, up and easy. We're going to do this now to the other side. Alright, now that we got the coil spring out of the way, next up, there's a 30mm bolt that holds this radius arm right here onto your axle. So you're going to remove the upper bolt completely and just slightly loosen the lower bolt, just to give it some wiggle room. Once you've done that, you're going to go to the back side here where the radius arm bolts up to the frame on the back in the bracket here. You're going to remove another 30mm bolt right here on the bottom, and then you're going to get your jack and slowly lower down this radius arm. It's not that heavy at all, but it's easier with the jack so you can get your adjustment. And now this is where it starts getting interesting. We get to install now the first bracket. And what this is the radius arm drop bracket. So we're gonna bolt this up here on the frame, and now the radius arm is gonna bolt onto here. So we're gonna get that in there right now with the hardware that came with the kit, and then we're gonna move on to the next step, and we're gonna actually do the same thing on the other side. I'm doing one side at a time because it's keeping the axle stable on the jack stands over there while I can knock it out here, and then we're gonna go over there. Alright guys, now we got the bracket installed here. We're just going to leave these bolts in loose for now until we get the other side done, and then we're going to lift both sides at the same time and hook them up, and then we'll tighten everything up. So we're going to go now and get the other side just like this now. Alright guys, so now we got both sides at the same point, which is we just finished installing the radius arm drop brackets on the rear. We have still the bolts loose on the top. We have no bolts on the bottom and no bolts on the top front here. So after installing the drop bracket, when you raise that arm back up, you'll notice that the arm is maybe about 2 inches too far back. So the easiest way to get the axle forward to get that realigned is just hook up a ratchet strap from the bottom of the axle to your frame. And I did this on both sides. As you can see here. And you're just gonna ratchet it forward, and as you can see, they're nearly aligned. All you have to do is just raise it up now a little bit and slide that bolt in. Once we get that bolt in, we're gonna put the top bolt back in here, and we're gonna continue with the install. Alright, next step is the track bar relocation bracket install. First we got to get this original one out of the way. We already had taken out the track bar bolt earlier in the beginning of the video. The track bar bracket has 3 bolts on the inside of the frame under here that hold it in place. You only have to grab it by the nuts on this side. It's a 21mm because they're held in place, they're welded in. Once you get those out, you can come out here. There's 2 18mm, so we're gonna remove those now. bracket's out of the way. Now, before installing the new bracket, since we have it out of the way, we can get access to the Pitman arm. So we're gonna go ahead and install the new drop Pitman arm that comes with the kit. So let's get this thing out of the way. I just want to show you guys how I got the puller set up. So first off, you got to remove the nut that goes under the Pitman arm, and that is a 1" and 13/16. It's a massive socket that you need there to remove the nut. However, once you get that off, you got to get yourself a Pitman arm puller. I have it set up right now on there. It's just putting constant tension. I'm just working it out little by little. So as you can see behind me, I got the Pitman arm off of the gearbox. It's kind of hard to see, it's kind of dark. You can see it right here. Once you do that, now this is a bit of a bitch. So make sure you get a good puller and got a good impact gun. If not, you're not gonna get that sucker off. And then once you do, once you get it off here, you're just gonna remove the cotter pin that was holding on to the drag link and set up your Pitman arm here to do the same thing. As you can see, I already got mine pulled back. So you just tighten it up, get it knocked off. We're gonna get this Pitman arm out of the way and get the new one installed so we can keep on going. Alright, I know it's kind of dark, but you can see we got the new Pitman arm in place. You're just gonna place it in as same way you removed the factory one. Just gonna make sure the splines line up, push it in there, tighten it up, put back the drag link, hook that back up, and once you do that, you can go ahead and install the new track bar relocation bracket. I went ahead and painted some of the suspension parts in the same color as the bottom of the truck here with the gold, just to kind of give it a little bit more custom look. I did make a video on that, guys. If you want to check it out, look on the channel for it. So you're just going to install the new track bar bracket the same way you remove the old one. It's got the two 18mm bolts on the outside and the 3 on the top there. You can't really see it, kind of hard to get to there, but once you got that in place, that's done with, we can actually get the coil springs. We're going to drop the axle down as far as we can and try and get the coil springs installed here. So let's see if we can do that. Alright guys, so now we're in the home stretch. I got the axle dropped down and was able to install the coil springs. As you can see, I also painted them with the same paint. So you just gotta lower the axle down. I got it almost down to the ground. The brake line is just enough reach there. I put it off to the side so it doesn't rub on it, and you know, just install it in there. You just first slide it. Make sure you get your bushing from your original coil spring. Put it on there. Slide it first on the top, then the bottom. So first top, then bottom. As you can see here, I got both sides in. Now that we got these in, we're gonna go ahead and install our new extended brake lines. It's a steel braided line that comes in the kit. So we're gonna go ahead and install that. We already got this bracket loose here. What we're gonna do now is take a 10mm and loosen the hard line right here where it connects, to that block. We're gonna remove that, and it's gonna thread straight into our new braided line with the new bracket, and we're gonna bolt that back up using the stock hardware. Alright, so I got the new steel braided brake line in. So like I said, you're just gonna remove it off of the original block housing that this comes with, and you're gonna run the new brake line through this new bracket and mount it up here. You're gonna tie them together there, then you're gonna dip. Alright, we got the new brake line in with the bracket. This is a provided bracket. You're gonna use the factory bolt. It's just gonna slide in here. You're gonna bolt it back up here. You're gonna replace the original bracket as well, and you're gonna bolt it up to your caliper. Make sure you use the sealing washers. If not, this is gonna leak. So make sure you put a washer on the top and a washer on the bottom, the copper sealing washer you can see right there, and you'll be all set. Now we're gonna lift up the axle enough to get the shock absorbers in so we can keep on going. Alright, as you can see, I got the axle slightly compressing the coil spring there. It's actually just enough to get the shock absorber in place. You're gonna go ahead and install one bushing. Alright, it's finally starting to look kind of complete now. We're almost to the end, at least with the front. As you can see, I got the axle just slightly compressing the coil spring in place, just enough so I can get the spring installed. You're gonna go ahead and use the factory bolt on the bottom here just to get it in place. On the top, make sure you get it's a washer, a bushing, then you go through the frame, and another bushing, then a washer. And then you're gonna go ahead and tighten up the nut on both sides, and now you got your shock absorber in place. For the front sway bar mount, now you're just gonna mount the new bracket that you can see here. You're gonna use the factory hardware on the top, and it comes with new bolts that you put on the bottom. Now you're just gonna slide the sway bar up into place here, tighten it up, and you're done with the sway bar link on the driver's side. On the passenger side, let me show you. On the passenger side, if you're going to be using the original steering stabilizer like I am, you're going to have to add this bracket. It comes in the kit. You're just going to place it. If you're not using the factory stabilizer, you don't use this bracket. It's just going to go between the sway bar relocation and the frame. You're just going to put it in place there, tighten it up using the factory hardware. Again, comes with the new bolts for the bottom. You're just going to push this sway bar up. You're going to push it up, and it's just going to grab in here like that, just like that. After we get this done, we can go ahead and put some weight onto the axle and tighten up the radius arm bolts that we left loose in the beginning. And then after that, we can get the wheels and tires back on this thing. Alright, so I got the sway bar in now, bolted on both sides. In order to do that, the axle was so far slid out that what I did is I put a ratchet strap going off the frame to the passenger frame to the driver's side axle, and I was able to scoot it over enough to get the sway bar in. And after the sway bar, we can go ahead and put the track bar in. So I just got it using the ratchet strap just to slide the axle over. I just got it lined up here, so we can go ahead and put that bolt in. And we're gonna tighten that up now, and this is about done. Alright, now that we got the front done, it's time for the easy part. We're gonna do the rear now. First thing you're gonna do is you want to get the rear lifted up. You want to secure it on the frame. I decided to secure it right underneath the hitch. It seemed like the best location. Got my jack stand set up on each side, and then I had left the jack supporting the differential because we're gonna be moving it up and down as we need to for the install. So the first thing you want to do is, before you let the axle go full down, all the way down, you want to just put a little bit of pressure up with the jack, leaving the truck on the jack stands, of course, and you're gonna remove the shocks. So as you can see, I already removed this side. It has one lower bolt that goes through and one nut that goes on the top. Here's the bolt here. It just comes through here. You're just gonna remove the nut, take the bolt out, and you're gonna pull your shock out. Now once we get both of the shocks out, we're gonna let the axle completely come down in full relax, and we're gonna unbolt these U-bolts from the leaf springs and install our new block with new U-bolts and tighten it back up. Alright, so after you remove the shock absorbers on both sides, you can go ahead and remove the U-bolts. There's two on each side. I find it best just to cut them off if they're rusted. If not, you can just unbolt them and remove them, or maybe save them for later. We already got this side cut off. We're gonna go ahead and do the other side now. Alright guys, so I'm having to re-record this. I'm not sure, maybe the memory was full on the GoPro or something. It didn't record the videos after I cut the U-bolts forward on the lift kit, and I didn't catch on to it. But I'm just going to talk you through it. It's very simple. If you made it this far, I'm sure you can complete the rest of the lift. So after cutting the U-bolts off, you're going to lower down the axle. Of course, the truck is still on jack stands at this point. You're going to lower that axle down to remove the original factory lift block. And you're going to install Rough Country's 6-inch lift block in there. As you can see here, I have it installed on my truck already. So you're going to install that block in there, and what you're going to do is you're going to line it up. It has a pin on the top and a hole in the bottom. You're going to line that up in there. Get it in place. Lift the axle back up on both sides, just enough tension to keep it in place. And you're going to place your new U-bolts in there with the bolt with the nuts on the top, as you can see here. You're also going to place these U-bolts here that are going to keep this block from spinning. It's going to keep it tight. It's going to secure it to the leaf spring. It's going to make it like if it was one. Once you do this and you got your U-bolts torqued down, remember you got to torque these things down real tight. You don't want any movement between the U-bolt and your axle. Once you do that, you can go ahead and compress the suspension and install your shock absorbers. As you can see here, it's just the same way as you remove the original ones. These are just longer to compensate for the added lift. And that's it, guys. You've completed your lift. Go ahead and install a new bigger wheels and tires. If not, you're gonna be looking like you skipped leg day. So let me just show you here how my truck came out. So here you can see the truck with the 37-inch tires. Those are 22-inch Hostiles with the Rough Country lift kit. As you can see, it gave it a lot of height. I got my 2005 F-350 6.0 here next to it, just so you can kind of see for comparison. This truck has a 6-inch lift as well. However, I guess these trucks came higher from the factory, because you can see it's about an inch or two higher. I've got the Rough Country dual steering stabilizer kit on the front end there as well, to help with the added tires. Just take a step back there so you guys can see the full view on it. So again, guys, if you guys appreciate this install, you know, just hit the like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm gonna keep making more videos. It's just gonna get better. This truck's not done. We got a lot more coming.